Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Schneider. I'm the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan, and I'm very pleased to be here today with Rory Gamble, the President of the International Union, UAW. Today, we are joining together to announce that the UAW, one of the largest and most prestigious unions in the world, is now on a pathway to be free of corruption. The UAW has a celebrated history, and it's played a crucial role in the labor movement in the United States. The union has been a significant part of growth and development of Michigan and also of the nation. When the UAW was founded in 1935, its mission was clear: protect and serve the hardworking men and women of the union. Unfortunately, over time, some of the leaders of the union lost sight of that mission and they became corrupt. Instead of serving the workers of the union, those leaders greedily served themselves. During our 5-year investigation, we have uncovered a startling level of corruption and fraud by a number of senior leaders of the UAW. As a result of this investigation, 15 people have been convicted of a multitude of fraud and corruption crimes. Several now former high-level officials have been convicted, including 2 UAW international presidents, 2 UAW vice presidents, a 3rd vice president and his widow, who was directly involved in fraud, a UAW regional director and board member, 6 other senior UAW officials, and 3 senior Fiat Chrysler executives, including the FCA executive in charge of negotiating with the UAW. As part of this criminal conduct, certain senior UAW officials embezzled over $1.5 million in dues money from the union. Other UAW officials took millions of dollars in kickbacks from contractors. Those contractors were trying to sell watches, backpacks, and jackets to the joint training centers. Finally, several UAW officials embezzled money from the UAW Fiat Chrysler Joint Training Center. And these UAW leaders accepted over $3.5 million in illegal payments from senior Fiat Chrysler executives. Those executives were seeking to corrupt the collective bargaining process. The conduct by these corrupt and criminal individuals has scarred the UAW, and it severely undermined the trust that the UAW's membership has had in its leaders. This criminal investigation and this prosecution have revealed a need to reform and to clean up and to return to greatness the storied United Auto Workers Union. In the face of this need, President Rory Gamble has stepped forward. He has taken significant actions on his own to begin the reform within the UAW, and he's shown poise and leadership during our negotiations and in our agreement for independent oversight. Both President Gamble and I recognize the overwhelming need to restore the trust and confidence in the men and women of the union and their families. And I want to thank President Gamble for his efforts to bring genuine reform to the union, even in the face of pressure to avoid such change and to deny the existence of those problems. Now I'd like to explain the details of what we are announcing today. Today, the United States is filing a federal anti-corruption and anti-fraud civil complaint against the UAW union, seeking injunctive relief and independent oversight of the union. After a period of good faith negotiations with the UAW's leadership, the United States and the UAW are also proposing to file a joint settlement of the civil complaint. The settlement provides for an injunction barring further embezzlement, fraud, and other corruption by officers of the UAW. It calls for an appointment of an independent monitor to oversee discipline in the union and to root out fraud, to get rid of corruption out of the union, and enforce the terms of the proposed consent order. Importantly, as part of this agreement, the men and women who make up the UAW's membership will get to decide for themselves whether to change the UAW's method of selecting their president and other members of the International Executive Board. The proposed consent order provides for the democratic process, this choice to occur through a secret ballot referendum. The referendum would allow the union's membership to freely choose whether to alter the union's election process to a direct election system sometimes referred to as one person, one vote, or to maintain a delegate electoral system. The consent order also recognizes the significant strides that the union has made in response to the federal investigation, including the payment by the UAW of over $15 million in improper chargebacks to joint program training centers, and a payment by the UAW of $1.5 million to resolve tax issues with the IRS. Now, in a moment, I'm going to turn this over to President Gamble. Let me first make some important points. First, this consent order provides for genuine democratic reform of the UAW. For over 70 years, the Administrative Caucus of the UAW, also known as the Ruther Caucus, has controlled elections within the union. This system has added to the UAW's problems. This order provides that the court-appointed monitor will oversee a secret ballot referendum of the union's membership. The men and women of the UAW will vote, and they will decide for themselves whether to keep the Ruther Caucus delegate system for electing international board members, or whether to change to one person, one vote, direct election of the UAW's international leadership. In this way, this will not be a system imposed upon the UAW by the United States government. Instead, the members, the workers, will decide for themselves how to be governed. Second, the United States will not be interfering in the collective bargaining process or the union's day-to-day administration of those contracts, unless there is evidence of corruption or improper conduct. Likewise, the independent monitor will not otherwise interfere in the negotiation of collective bargaining agreements with union employees, nor with the administration of those collective bargaining agreements. Third, today's civil complaint is an anti-fraud and anti-corruption action filed under Section 1345 of Title 18 of the United States Code. This action was not filed under the civil racketeering law because, unlike some other unions, the UAW is not infiltrated or controlled in any way by traditional organized crime. As a result, a RICO action was not necessary or appropriate. Instead, this anti-fraud and anti-corruption action provides for the exact same kind of injunctive relief, independent monitor, and court oversight that can be provided under RICO. However, this recognizes that the UAW does not have a problem with organized crime. Instead, the union has had a problem with fraud, embezzlement, and corruption, which is exactly what Congress intended to address with a Section 1345 lawsuit like this one. Fourth, this consent order provides for a period of independent oversight of the UAW lasting 6 years. During this period of time, the monitor will have the same authority as the UAW to exercise disciplinary powers within the UAW and investigate allegations of corruption, embezzlement, and fraud. Importantly, the monitor will also have oversight of the membership's referendum concerning the election process. So then, if the members decide to choose direct elections, the monitor would oversee those elections for the next 2 election cycles. This oversight could be ended early if the monitor were to find that his or her work is complete and the UAW no longer needs the monitor's services. On the other hand, the 6-year period of oversight could be extended if the monitor and one of the parties feels that a longer period is needed. Fifth, this investigation and these criminal prosecutions have uncovered improper charges that the UAW made on 2 of the joint training centers. The UAW has already paid back $15 million in these improper charges to the training centers. This money will be used for its intended purpose, providing for the health, safety, and training of UAW members. Additionally, as part of this settlement, the UAW has agreed to pay $1.5 million to settle tax issues with the IRS related to its administrative fees charged by the UAW to the auto companies. I should also note that we have not sought to impose any fines or penalties on the UAW in part of this settlement. And that's because the money that would pay for that would come directly out of the pockets of the membership, workers who have already lost millions of dollars in their dues money from the corrupt and fraudulent conduct of the convicted UAW officials. 6, this is the end of our criminal investigation and prosecution of the UAW as an entity. The investigation of individual UAW officials and others continues. And because the media has asked about this, I can tell you that President Gamble is not a target of our investigation. If he were, I would not have sat down with him and negotiated this resolution. Finally, I want to recognize the important role that the federal law enforcement agencies have played in this investigation. This has been a real team effort led by the IRS, the FBI, the Department of Labor, Office of Labor Management Standards, and the Office of the Inspector General. In particular, Special Agent Andy Donahue, who worked long and challenging hours to make this day a reality. Joining us in the room today are also Assistant Special Agent in Charge James Meade from the Department of Labor Inspector General's Office, Special Agent in Charge Sarah Cole from the IRS, and Special Agent in Charge Tim Waters from the FBI. Without the professionalism and tireless work of these offices, this settlement would not have been possible today. I'm also deeply thankful to Assistant U.S. Attorneys David Gardy and Steve Karras, because this settlement certainly would not have happened without them. Look, it was challenging enough to get this done, but to do it in a pandemic was simply incredible. I thank them, and I also thank the UAW's primary attorneys, Niraj Ganatra and Terry Campbell, for their collective teamwork. In conclusion, through this entire matter, be it criminal or civil, we have worked to eliminate fraud and corruption within the leadership of the UAW. Our goal has been a simple one: provide justice to the members of the UAW. This will not fully happen until the members and their families have a restored faith in the union leadership, until the workers trust that their leaders will put the interests of the membership above all other considerations. Today's agreement is another step in advancing toward that goal. President Gamble, thank you for your leadership, and your cooperation, and your dedication to our joint efforts.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Snyder. I want to thank first my great UAW membership who entrusted this very honored and storied responsibility to my care and our International Executive Board, who also worked very tirelessly to bring about this much needed resolve. I want to thank again also our attorneys, Terry Campbell and Niraj Ganatra, for their very faithless efforts in bringing and advising us on how to get to where we need to be today. And this is for our members. Today is about them. Today is about justice for their very hard-earned dues money and the things that they provide not only in society but the individual communities as a whole. So with that, I want to read you some prepared remarks. Today we are here to announce an agreement that I and the entire UAW International Executive Board fully support and welcome. This agreement is yet another step toward restoring the full faith and confidence of our members in our union and its leadership. As U.S. Attorney Snyder noted in his remarks, this is a civil resolution, not criminal, and concludes the government's investigation of the UAW. The agreement we have reached builds upon the many reforms that the UAW International Executive Board has initiated and put in place voluntarily over the past 13 months. Our agreement provides another set of eyes, a monitor for a period of time to make absolutely sure that our financial, operational, and ethic reforms are enforced and, if needed, enhanced. Importantly, this is a collaborative effort between the government and UAW leadership to achieve our joint goals, to ensure that our union is clean, free from misconduct, conducted with integrity, and always for the benefit of its members, and especially to restore the full faith and confidence of our members in their union. Over the past year, the UAW has proactively weeded out individuals who put their personal benefit over our members' interests and who abuse their positions of trust to defraud our union and our membership. Those individuals have been investigated and charged internally by the IAB, permanently expelled from the union, and in several cases criminally prosecuted. Should it come to light that additional individuals have engaged in misconduct or self-dealing, the IAB remains committed to taking swift and thorough action. Part of reform is admitting your mistakes. We have acknowledged that our past financial controls were inadequate to deter this misconduct, and we have had to come to grips with the fact that several union officials engaged in criminal conduct. This has been an extremely difficult and painful process for the vast majority of our leaders who have dedicated their lives and careers to bettering the lives of working men and women. But we have done and will continue to do everything in our power to make sure the mistakes of the past are never ever repeated. Over the past year, the UAW International Executive Board has devoted an extraordinary amount of time, attention, and resources to significantly overhauling and strengthening both our financial and ethical controls, all to ensure that current and future officials and employees will never have the ability to repeat these misdeeds. We have hired an outside ethics officer and retained a third-party compliance firm dedicated to investigating allegations of financial or ethical misconduct. We have established a confidential ethics hotline to receive any complaints about misconduct. We have conducted a top-to-bottom review of our financial, accounting, and ethics policies and controls, and are implementing changes to strengthen those systems at every level. And maybe most importantly, we have devoted ourselves to strengthening the culture of our union so that the type of misconduct that brought us here today will never again take place. Both the government and the UAW want the union to continue to govern itself with responsible internal leadership and increased accountability for our members, and we will do just that. I can tell you that I and the entire IEB embrace the involvement of a monitor. For a period of time, we will provide an extra and independent set of eyes on our union's financial and disciplinary processes and provide complete assurance to our members that the reforms we have initiated take permanent root. We are committed to making the monitor's job a very boring one by making sure through our self-governance that there are no financial or ethical misconduct issues to monitor. The UAW and the government have agreed that a membership vote will be held to decide the issue of one member, one vote. Details will be forthcoming. I would like to thank my colleague, U.S. Attorney Snyder, his staff, and those investigating this matter for working very collaboratively and very understanding with us on this agreement. We all have a shared goal to make the UAW a shining example of what a labor union can and should be. I embrace this effort. The UAW-IAB embraces this effort, and the future of the UAW is stronger and better for our joint work on this. The entire UAW International Executive Board will sign this consent decree, and very accurately, they have already signed it. And most of all, I want to say to our UAW membership, when I look on the position of president of the UAW, I promised you that I would hand off a clean, reformed, ethical union to my successor that will be a model of what a labor union should be. Through the dedicated efforts of our International Executive Board, UAW staff, and most importantly, our members over the past year, we are already well on the road to achieving that goal. This agreement further ensures that goal will be met. And while this process has been difficult for us as a union, the UAW going forward is clean, and we are a better union because of it. Thank you, Brother Snyder, and I turn this back to you. And in my conclusion, I want to say again, I truly appreciate the compassion and understanding of just what the UAW is all about on behalf of Prosecutor Snyder's office. When I first sat down with Prosecutor Snyder, I knew that going in, we needed to come in with strong efforts in place to show that we can self-govern. We did that, and I appreciate him understanding and recognizing that and coming to this agreement that we're presenting today. So to you, my brother, I say thank you. And to all my UAW brothers and sisters across this country, I say God bless you all. Your union is here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you. And the only reason why I was unable to shake President Gamble's hand is because of COVID. There's no other reason. So we'd be happy to take